Hey fashion lovers, welcome to my channel, your go-to place for fresh fashion tips and easy guides on how to make unisex outfits that stand out. Yeah, I'll be showing you how to create stylish designs for both men and women, step by step, simple, creative, and beginner friendly. And guess what? You can even suggest what I should teach next. So if you're ready to level up your fashion skills, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Today, I'll be making the off-shoulder bridesmaid mermaid gown, and these are many examples of the mermaid gown, but I'll be making this particular style. So stay tuned and watch. The first thing you need first for this is to have the proper measurement, and the measurements we were considering is the off shoulder, also known as the arm to arm circumference. The next is the top bust width. The next, the bust width, under bust, waist width, and hip width. This is like all the width measurement. Okay, the next to consider is the length. We have the shoulder to the top bust length. We have the shoulder to bust length. We have the shoulder to under bust length. We have the shoulder to waist length. We have the shoulder to hip length. And we have the shoulder to knee length. We also have the shoulder to full length. These are the measurements you need basically for you to make this dress. Now it's time for the pattern drafting of the front. Now you can see 4 lines here. These lines represent the length of the front part. Now the first line you're seeing there is the top bust length. The second line is the bust length. The third line is the under bust length, and the fourth line is the waist length. And I also had half inches extra at the top bust for sewing allowance, and also add half inches at the waist length extra to increase the waist for the sewing allowance. Now after this, the next thing to do is to add an allowance for this before you start your markings. Now the allowance I'm going to add is 2 to 3 inches extra, but to be on the safe side, please add 3 inches. I added 2 here, but I want you to add 3 inches because when making this cloth I noticed that I needed 3 more extra inches. So do that, add 3 inches extra. But now you can see, how do I get my 3 inches? Where did I start from? I started from the bust point, because the bust width is actually the biggest of all. I used that highest point to add the other extra inches, the 3 inches, and I marked. You can see I'm drawing a line to after the 3 inches was added to get my end points for all of the top bust, the bust point, the under bust, and the waist. I used that 3 inches for all of them. Now it's time to get the other bust width. I'm going to start with the top bust width. You divide it by 4 to get that point. You also go to the under bust width. You also divide it by 4 to get that point. Then go to the waist width and you divide it by 4. Now go to the under bust and divide it by 2. From that point, divide it by 2 to get your midpoint. Next is to add, from that midpoint is to add half inches at this side and 1 inches at the other side. Then you need to take the length of that midpoint that you got and use that length for the waist also, and also use that length also for the bust also. Now you're going to join that midpoint from the waist to the under bust and to the bust. Draw a straight line, as you can see. Now from that half inches I kept, I'm going to draw a straight line from the waist down to that half inches I kept at the under bust. And also I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to draw from that point to the 1 inches I kept at the other side also. I'm going to connect it to the bust also to that point, as you can see, and also from that other side to it also. But in this sense, I'm going to curve, make a curve like a bust curve, a kind of a not flat, not straight. I'm going to make a curve to that point instead of making it straight like the other ones. I'm also take it from that bust point. I'm going to take it and make a curve also to where the line of the top bust width is, as you can see. The thing to do is to get the midpoint between the waist, the bust, sorry, to the top bust. Then when you get that midpoint, you just roll it, and when you're done rolling it, you're going to go to the top bust width and add 1 inches extra to it, and that 1 inches extra, then you are going to roll a line to connect to that midpoint that you got at then you get your armhole from there. You can see the curve. That's the armhole. Then it's time for you to cut it out. Now it's time to use the front side to map out the back side, and as you can see, I'm placing the front there on the back pattern for me to map it out. Now next is for you to add 2 inches at this side. Can you see where I'm marking the 2 inches? You can see that I'm adding 2 inches extra to the back side. Now the next thing to do is to trace out all the points from the front. You trace it to the back. You trace the under bust, you trace the bust, and you trace the top bust. Then you trace every point of the front so you can roll it. Then you roll it out when you're done. Then you, once those are set, the lines are now set, then the next thing is get the midpoint of the underbust, dividing the underbust by 4, the same thing you did in the front. Then you get that midpoint, then you mark the midpoint in all the parts, the bottom, the bust, and the top bust, even to the top of the back pattern. Then you roll it. Once you're done with this, the next thing to do is to go to the underbust, that part you started from, where you get the midpoint, and you get your half inches from that line, and to the other side you get your half inches. Then you roll a line from that half inches you kept to straight to the down part. Also do the same thing to the other side. You roll a straight line down to the other side. Then you go to the bust and add 2 inches extra from the bust point upward and mark that line. When you mark the line, then you go back and you roll a line from that under bust to that 2 inches line that you've marked from the bust. Then you mark above the bust, then you roll the line, then do the other way also, then you roll the line. For the back, there's something I'm going to do. I'm going to create a curve, and from the bottom part, and that's the curve you see in there. That curve, what took 1 inches away, then I make the curve to the other side of the back. Now this is necessary. It has to let the back fit with the front because of the bust, the breast, it pushes the front up, so it makes the front short automatically. So the back is just a straight part. So if you don't cut away the back, it's not going to rhyme with the front. The breast pushes the front part of the cloth up, whereby making it shorter than the normal length. Why the back is just a straight thing, you have to reduce the back so it can rhyme with the front and give it that same round figure fit. If you look at the part I put the inches allowance at first when I was cutting the back this side, you notice that I reduced the down part of the back by half inches. That is done to give the cloth a fitting, to rest very well in the back. So I reduced that part, that bottom part, by half inches. It's necessary you do that to the back. The next to do is to cut it out. Next thing to do is to cut the off shoulder part, which is the top part of the dress, the cape round the off shoulder. Fold the pattern paper into two. What you need for this is the off shoulder measurement, the round off shoulder measurement. When you get the round off shoulder measurement, you divide it by 4. Once you're done dividing it by 4, then you place it on the pattern. You had your half inches for sewing allowance. Also at the bottom, you had 1 inches extra. Now the distance between the off shoulder to the bottom of the cape should be 5, or it depends on the length you want to use. It can be 5, it can be 4, it can be as low as 3. Depends on how you want your cape to look like. Then you cut it out and place the pattern on another pattern to cut out the back part of this cape. Now you add 2 inches to the back, then you cut it out. Now it's time to take the pattern and place it on the original pieces to cut out all the shapes that you need. Now I'm going to use that back pieces, the one I added 2 inches to cut out 2 pieces for the back. Then I'll take the other one, which is the one for the front, and cut out a piece, as you can see. Next thing to do is to cut out the facing for this cape. The facing for the back side, the facing for the front side. So I'm going to cut in more pieces, as you can see. I took the pattern of the front and the back body, and I cut it out on the real pattern. Where my hands are pointing, that point is the breast point. I have to notch it and notch the other side. So when I'm sewing it, they're going to align together. I'm going to start from that point to sew, so that I have to get that perfect bust shape. The next to do is to cut the lining for the bodies, for the front and the back. Please note when you're cutting,
give a little space. Let the lining be a little bit bigger than the body. It's necessary to have a nice body fit. Like, don't let the lining be smaller because it's going to make the clothes shrink. So to avoid the clothes from getting shrink at some point, you have to make sure that there's enough space, a little space added to the lining. Next is to cut an interface to add more texture to the body. And these textures are different. There are different type of interface you can add. Right here I'm using a paper stay. There are other ones, the other interface you can use. There that are cloth, they have this cloth-like look, not very hard, that you can gum to your material to have make it make it more firm. So next is to cut that out and iron it to the body of the cloth. Now the next thing to do is to add a interface and add a hard interface to the front of the bust, to the bust region alone, and that is the gum wording. It's a very thick interface that I'm going to add to give the bust a shape. I'm going to cut a part for the center of the bust. I'm going to cut another part for the both side of the bust. Also, as you can see, I'm cutting it and I'm placing it at the bust part alone. Also, please don't forget to cut the lining also for the back also, and always give that little space, add a little space added to the lining so that the should be it be larger than the clothes, so that when sewing the lining will be smaller and squeeze the front part of the cloth. Okay, now is the skirt, the down part of this gown. I'm going to explain this for you because I've already marked everything in this gown. Now there's lines started from the waist down to the feet part. Now we have how many lines we have? From the waist we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the line 1 is the waist part. The line 3 is the hip part, and the line 5 is the knee part. That's the knee length. Everything are all lengths. Then the last one, which is the sixth line, is the floor length, like the full length, the down part of the gown length. We're using the waist length, we're using the hip length, the knee, and the full length. And also with it, we're also going to use the waist width and the hip width. Okay, now this material is folded into two. Now for the waist, that's the first length, you are to divide the waist width by 4. That's how you got that line, and it should be divided by 4, and you add your allowance also to it, half inches allowance. You can add 1 to be on the safe side. You do the same thing for the hip. You get the measurement for the hip, divided by 4, and you had your allowance also 1 inches or half inches. Now go to the line 5, which is the knee length. Now for us to get that shape, what you get from the hip, you deduct it, you minus 1 from the hip. So that knee is minus 1 from the hip. That's how I got the knee length. Now going to line 4, which is the line in between the hip and the knee. You can see that was what the line that gave me that shape that went down to the feet, like to the floor, to the full length. Now you don't start that shape from the knee length. You have to go up a bit, sometimes 6 inches, 5 inches, but that you're seeing there is up to 5 to 6 inches. Then I drew the straight line down. Now from the fourth line down to the full length, that slopey line, you can see how sloped I made it. I kind of made it that way. You might want to make it more than that, like you want to increase the slopiness, or you might want to reduce the slopiness. Depends on how you want to make your dress slopey, and that should be depend on you. But you can just look out how you want to figure that out. Now for a very good pattern, depending on what you want to do, you can from the hip width, that's that length, you can add like 7 inches, you can add 5 just to make create that slope. Now when you're done with this properly, you can cut it out and use the front to cut the back. Point, you have to place the front at the back piece so you can cut the back shape out. Now when you place the front at the back piece, you give enough allowance, not just 2 inches allowance, enough allowance whereby, because the back is going to have some more extra shape to give out and more extra spaces to make the back drop very well. So it's better you give the amount of space you want to give. You can make it more bigger, but for what I'm going to keep up to like maybe 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches extra. So once that is done, I'm going to start marking 2 inches from the waist, keep extra 2 inches down to that point. I gave that slope that is in between the knee and the hip, that point whereby the slope started from. I'm going to stop there. Now from that point that the slope started, I won't let it be the same 2 inches as the waist. I'm going to reduce it by a half inches so that it can create a bit of shape, and that shape I'm going to draw it straight up to the hip so I can have that back shape, bum shape kind of look. So that is important, just to give that back shape, that part of the shape, the body, the bum part look, give it a very good nice shape, not just straight but having that kind of fine looking face. So that's just it. Next is to connect that point of the slope at the back where the slope started from, to connect that point to the down part of the gown at the back side. I'm not going to make it the same length as the front. I'm going to make it go down very well because the back needs to get a bit longer for this kind of style. If I had enough material, that I've made it more, increase the down part for the back. But for this material, I just want to maintain, and for this particular style, not too much of draping at the back. Just gonna just make it go down a bit. Then from that down part, you connect it to the front at the other end so it can meet together when you're sewing. Now it's time for the cutting so you can have a look and a view of how I did this. In case you don't understand what I was saying, with the look of when I'm cutting and the picture of everything, you really understand what I'm actually driving at. So just look at it. Now it's time to add the interface to the cloth. We're going to use iron to gum the interface to the cloth. As you can see, I want to gum the interface to the cloth now with iron. When you're done ironing, you trim out the x-axis out of it to make it look the way the material is. That part for the bust, that hard surface to bring out the bust, the breast part, to give it a good out fitting and hard shape. And you see, I'm gonna place it, that thing I cut. I'm gonna place it, the one for the center, the one for the two side. I'm going to use iron to iron it. Unfortunately, you have to be very careful with this. But I actually burnt the material when I was placing the iron. My mind went up to something else, and I burned this cloth so bad that I have to find another means, another way to fix up what I have actually spoiled. So what I had to do is to cut this material all over again. But I could not get enough material, so there's some joining I did at the middle of the center of the both side. I have to join that material and make this. And I could not get enough, so I had to find a way to just patch in. But all the same, still gonna give me what I want, but there's a line in between because of my mistake. You have to be very careful when you are ironing your clothes. Now next is for you to sew the bust to the center, the other part to the center of the dress. And I'm gonna join. I'm about to do that now. The bust, one of the side to the center and the other side to the other center also. And please start from that middle point of that bust. Notch the middle part, and I notched it from when I was cutting the cloth at first. So just start from there and start from that bust part. Make sure it's rhyming together before you start sewing. And you sew it down, then you sew it up also. Okay, now this is the finished product of what I've sewn. I have to iron. It's looking so rough, not gonna give me the nice shape. So I'm gonna use my iron to smoothen that spot out. Also, not just iron, I'm going to notch it also so I can be able to press it very well. Also, pay attention. I'm going to notch the down part of that bust where I gummed that white thing. You can see that interface. I'm going to notch that part to the where I sewed a little bit. So that's to make that place fall well, because if you don't notch, it's gonna look squeezed when you open to the other side. So you have to notch that place to make it look very fine and very smooth. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the lining. I'm going to join those sides together, then join it to the other side, and also do the other side. So just join it, then iron it, and that's just it. Now this is the back piece, and you can see when I started cutting the pattern, this is the two back piece. I'm going to join it at the center. I remember I cut the lining also. Remember, this is two pieces. I'm going to cut I'm going to join one back piece and join the other back piece too. And also the lining, so I'm going to do the same thing to the lining and join the other side, as you can see. Now it's time to join the front with its lining. So I'm about to do that, and I'm going to join that. Now I'm going to join the sides together, like this side I'm holding and the other side together. That's what I'm going to do first. Now for the back, I'm going to do the same thing. That center there in between the two parts for the back is the zip part. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn the lining, the cloth material and the lining over, and I'm going to sew it the way I did the front. And I'm going to do it also at the other side of the back. And that's all for now. Now it's time for the off shoulder parts. The off shoulder, this is the cape at the off shoulder region. So now these are all the pieces I've cut out from the pattern. Now that's the one up there is for the front part, and this one here is for the back part. So I'm bringing it out for you to see it. I also used the same material for the facing of this cape. You can use another material for it, but I decided to use the facing of the same material. I'm going to take out all the facing out. Now I'm going to show you what I want to do next. I'm going to take the back part and join with the front part, as you can see. I'm going to do that also for the facing and do the same thing. I'm going to sew the two sides and leave that part for the zip. You can see the part for the zip here. That's that part. I'm going to leave that part, but I'm going to sew the ends of the two sides. I'm going to do the same thing for the facing too. At this point, I'm done sewing the sides for the facing and both the original part of it. It's both the same thing, the same material I'm using for the facing. So I'm going to turn it and also take it to the other part of it. You can see. Now it's time for me to sew it. I'm going to sew the down part of this cloth, not the up part. The up part I'm going to stitch it to the off shoulder, but the down part I'm going to sew it and turn it, and me to fix that cape on to the off shoulder. Now you can see I've sewn the wider part of this, that's the longest part of it, while the shorter side I'm going to place it on the bodies of the front and back, the off shoulder part. Now taking that cape to the body, we want to notch out the middle so it smiles through the middle of the blouse of the front side. Now please take note of the notches in the other two side ends of the front blouse, and also this cape here is a precise circumference measurement. and added 2 inches extra for the back and zip. For the zip part, it's precise. So when you go take it to the back of the clothes, you should also notch it as follows, like from starting from the ending of the cape to the back arm or where the arm meets, and the other point there is the one that meets with the other side of the body. That's the front part. You can see the marking that starts the back and the other marking that continues to the front. Now if you look carefully to the top part of this blouse, you can see that I there's a line, there's a sewing on the tip of it to hold the lining and the lining to the clothes together. I did that for the back also. So it's actually I held the lining at that top part. I held the lining and the clothes together so that when I'm adding the cape, it's going to not fold. It's going to be proper. Now it's time to add the cape to the body of the clothes. Now you can see I open it. I went to the notch part and I placed it on the front. Then I sew it. Continued the sewing also to the back also according to the places I notched. I didn't just sew it round. I followed the notch part and the space I kept for the arm, and I did that for the back also, and this is the finished product of it. Now covering this is looks like one of the hardest thing to do because you have to take this and cover up it, like to face it out, to cover it out, and all the parts. So that's the other side to cover it, and this is one of the toughest things to do, but you have to be very careful and have to follow it precisely and with good care, and you can pin it down, you will have a good result. Now this is what you get when you're done covering it, and we're almost trying to finish up this dress. Now it's time for us to join the bodies, but if you look at, I could not reach the last 2 inches, so I had to just bend it. I had to bend it. The zip is going to cover that part, and the other side also. You can see that I bent it to make it a nice, a good finish, but not still better. But the zip is going to cover that part up. Now after that, it's time for us to join the two sides together, the front to the two back side, and you have to be very careful with your measurement. You have to get the round, the bust width, the under bust width, and the waist width. You have to be careful with it. And if you see the way I'm measuring the bust width, I'm actually taking it round that bust, and I've gotten what I want. I'm going to do also with the back also. Then when I add it together, then I will take out the excesses out in the left, in the both sides, to make it fit the particular bust width that I want. And I'll do that for the under bust too. and get what I have for the front and also for the back too. Then I'll add it together. Then I'll get what I want and I'll take away the allowance. The same thing I will do for the back. Once I'm done calculating the whole thing, then I will join what I need to join. Now, if you notice that the side of the front and the back, that it was not actually bent inside, it was later joined. I had to lose it and leave it this way because it was not enough for the person I was going to make this cloth for. I did not give enough allowance when I was cutting the pattern at first. So that was why I had to free up this side, the side of the front and the back. I didn't join it. So that's the fault of me not adding enough allowance from the original pattern cuttings. That's why it's good to always add allowances up to 3 to 4 inches extra when cutting the pattern. Also, when taking your measurement, don't forget to keep the allowance you need for the zip out. It's important at the back of the cloth. As you can see, this is me finishing up the joining of the front to the back piece together. As you can see, now the next thing to do after this is to join the down part to the top part. That's the skirt part to the blouse part. The parts that the other gown, you join it to this part you're seeing here. Now it's time to join the skirt. What you'll be needing is the waist width measurement and the hip width measurement. Okay, right now I'm going to show you how to place the skirt before you start sewing it. And this is the front part of the skirt. That's the down part of the gown. And I'm going to take the back and join with it. One side of the back to the other part of it, and the other side to the other part of it. Now that middle part is where I'm going to put the zip. So I'm not going to sew that part at all. I'm just going to sew the side only. And please take note, you can pin that zip part down with pin, or you can sew it down just like you can pin it down, then use it to get your accurate waist measurement and hip measurement and sew it. Now here is the skirt, is the gown part facing the top part, ready for me to sew it down. And take note, you have to notch the middle and notch the middle of the skirt and also notch the middle of the blouse too, so it can be perfectly have a good shape round when sewing it. Take note of that. The notching is important. Once you're done joining this, it's time to add the zip. You can see the joining. Now I'm going to add the zip now, and this is the zip I'm going to add. I'm adding an invincible zip, and you can see how I fixed it. I'm going to run it down. Now for this invisible zip, you have to make sure it's close to the teeth so it doesn't show at the back. As you can see, I made it close to the teeth, so you're not going to see the x-axis of the other part. So I'm going to fold this inside and stitch it at the back of it, so you don't get to see that flying above. Now when you join the zip down to the part that the zip stops, that is before the hip, you should run the sewing down to the end of the gown, and I'm going to show you that how it is where the zip stopped. That is where if you look at, that's where the zip stopped, and I had to run it down to the end of it, to the down part. Now once you're done sewing it, you fold the down part of the hemming part, that is the bottom, you sew it round, and once you're done with that, you go take it for weaving, then you iron.